In today's world, we commonly hear about the phrase delayed gratification or delaying gratification. And so I thought in this episode, I would basically talk a little bit about how applying this principle to my job hunt basically saved me with my career trajectory and helping me get to where I am today. So here's my story. First things first, what exactly is delayed gratification? Delayed gratification is essentially putting off the short term pleasures for the greater long term pleasures later on. So, the clearest example I can probably give is, or maybe there's two examples. There's one with that marshmallow test that you probably learned about in school, where they put one marshmallow on a kid's table, and it's like, if you don't touch the marshmallow for 5 minutes, you get two marshmallows. And some were like, you know what, stuff it, I don't care about the two marshmallows, I just want the one. And they think in the short term. Whereas other people were like, oh, okay, if I know I've got something better coming along later, I'm happy to hold off for now, you know? Another more practical example in today's world is, let's say, you're getting into the gym and you're getting into bodybuilding, and let's say you're out with your friends and everyone's going to get burgers, but you've got a chicken salad at home that night. So delaying gratification is kind of saying, okay, I know the short-term pleasure here, the good thing in the short term is to have the burger, but I know how I'm going to feel after it, and I know I have something better waiting for me later on. So I'm just going to hold off for now, delay the gratification, delay the satisfaction, and go home and have that next thing. So that's basically the principle of it. Now, how does this relate to my story and my job hunt, and how can you guys take these principles and apply it to your own stories? Well, here we go. So a bit about my story. So basically, I graduated university in May 2025. And honestly, from about March, maybe February even of 2025, I was already looking for full-time work, because with my university, I was very, very lucky that, classes were not mandatory to attend. And I did 4 subjects that semester, but apart from one, all 3 of them were very manageable, very simple to do. And yeah, you could get by not attending classes. So I was like, okay, this is fine. I'm going to start looking for a full-time job now anyways, because I thought about it. I had a little bit of free time and I thought, well, even if I don't get these jobs, at least I can get some good experiences. I can maybe build some connections or whatever it is, just over those first few months before I officially graduate. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do that. Anyways, what happened from there was, essentially I did what every other grad does and just starts applying for all these different jobs out there. Now, what happened to me was that I had finished my degree. I'd got to about May, and I was very desperate at this point for a new job. So at this point in time, I'd had a couple of interviews with a couple of different companies, all in that like HR/recruitment industry. I thought about as well, like, oh, if I get a HR opportunity, I can take that to start with. It's not the be all and end all. But really, I wanted to get into recruitment. That was always what I wanted to do. Anyways, there was this one job that I'd applied for, and they had said to me, okay, come in for an interview, we'll have a chat, all good. So I go in for the interview, and I was under the impression it was a recruitment position, but like internally for the company, and then helping the other companies help find other people for other jobs. I don't know. It was a recruitment role, but it wasn't a traditional recruitment role, but it was still recruitment. So I was like, all right, I'll take it on. Anyways, I go into the interview, and the approach is a lot different. The day to day isn't clearly outlined for starters, but they're talking about things that are not relevant to the job. So they kept mentioning the idea of, just processing data and processing information, and, putting claims forward and helping other people put claims forward and things along these lines. And I started thinking, I was like, okay, this isn't exactly what I want to do. So I asked a bit about the recruitment, and they were like, yeah, it'll happen. You'll be doing recruitment, but you'll also be doing claims, and you'll be doing, this support, and you'll be doing data entry, and you'll be doing all of these other things. And I was in my head, I'm like, okay, like this sounds very interesting, and this isn't what I was exactly told to start with. So I was a little bit wary about that. Anyways, I was like, okay, I'm still gonna do the interview, still gonna present as best as possible, and that's it. All right, cool. Anyways, I got home that afternoon, and I just knew that it wasn't, firstly, it wasn't what was promised to me. Secondly, it wasn't what attracted me. So I was looking at that role thinking, okay, this isn't exactly what I want. This day to day, it's too broad. There's too many different things. it doesn't even feel like they know what I'm going to be doing. So how am I supposed to know? And there wasn't really much talk about like training or an onboarding season or anything like that. It was just the way I kind of understood it was like, you get thrown into the deep end and make it work. And I didn't want that. And whilst the people that interviewed me were lovely, they were very, very nice, I just had this feeling that from a structural perspective, I was going to struggle. Anyways, so I only did one interview, by the way. And then I got a call from a recruitment agency, and they said they really liked you and they want to proceed with an offer. And I was like, what? Firstly, nothing was done with the recruitment agency beforehand. Every contact that I had was directly with the company. So I was already confused about that. But anyways, they said they'd love to proceed with an offer from you, but we'll let you know in the coming days. So again, I'm like, what? Like, this is so weird, this whole process. Anyways, the gentleman called me who interviewed me, and he said, yep, look, happy to proceed with an offer. We'll give you 75,000 and you will be the desktop manager. I was like, okay. I was like, so on the call, like, I'm not going to reject anything because, again, at this point, I'm just like every other grad in the world. I'm applying for hundreds of jobs out there. I'm not even getting emails back to say thank you for your application. I'm barely getting screening calls. I had a couple of interviews, but that was it. Like, at this point in time, I had nothing else available. So obviously, I'm not going to reject the opportunity straight away. I needed time to think about it. Okay. But anyway, so he's saying this whole phrase like desktop manager. And I was like, okay. So they gave me, they sent over to me the contract, sent me the salary. Everything was very appealing, like from that perspective, like a good starting salary. I was like, okay, this is good. But anyways, I looked into the contract, I looked into the day to day, and it had nothing to do with recruitment, like whatsoever. There was nothing about that whole thing that was recruitment. It was essentially a data entry admin position supporting the higher ups. Which again, if I wanted to apply for that position in itself as an admin role, you can do it, that's fine. But it wasn't what was sold to me initially, and most importantly, it wasn't what aligned with me and my career. So anyways, I'm thinking about it and I'm like, okay, I've got this contract, what do I do? Like, I can't just reject it after 5 minutes, I need to think about it. So what I did was, I went to ChatGPT and I stuck in the contract and I said, can this, based on these roles and responsibilities, can this take me to a recruitment role, or is this going to help me get to my end goal, which is, to be head of a recruitment agency one day? And it said, no, like, this is a complete left field move. Do not take this move. Like, ChatGPT was very, very good with that. Basically saying, like, none of the, like, there's barely any transferable skills. Nothing by title is relevant to what you want to do. Don't take this offer. And again, I had obviously discussions with my family. I talked about it with my friends as well. And everybody was in different positions. People were saying to me, like, the money's great for an entry level job. Just take it, do it for a year and then move on. So there's obviously like that mindset to it, but it's also like, okay, it wasn't what I wanted to do, and I'm a big believer in being, disciplined and, doing things you don't want to do, but that there's a greater goal and stuff like that. But this just felt too irrelevant to what I wanted to do. So eventually I knocked back the offer, and we fast forward a month from here. I had a couple of interviews with a recruitment agency and I got my first job. Okay. Now, was I making the money that was promised to me in that first contract? No, not even close. But the opportunity to work in recruitment, the opportunity to have direct exposure to what I wanted to do in a small team, in a small environment where I can take on responsibility early, where that was outlined, where, there was at least, they were telling me that there was a good progression plan in place when I first started, that interested me a lot more. So I took that opportunity. And what I learned from that is essentially why this is so important is that when you delay gratification and you turn away those short-term attractive offers, eventually you're going to get the right role. And this is my biggest message basically to you guys, is that when you're entering the job market, I can definitely understand the desire just to take the first thing that comes your way. Even if it's a little bit left field to what you want. A lot of us are just so desperate for that first full-time job, so we just want to take anything that we get, which again, if your mindset is just you want to work and you want to get money, like, you can do that, trust me. But at the end of the day, you're not going to be fulfilled. You're not going to be happy. Now, don't get me wrong, working in recruitment, do I have bad days? Of course, everybody has bad days. but I go to work at least enjoying the principle of my work. I enjoy the core of what I do every single day. It doesn't matter what industry of recruitment I'm in, the principle of working with recruitment, reaching out to candidates, doing job interviews, speaking with clients, speaking with businesses, I enjoy all of it. That is much more fulfilling to me than being a desktop manager at things that just didn't really align with what I wanted to do. That's all it is. It's basically just all about knocking back any early offers in your career that don't exactly align with you just because you need a job. Okay, genuinely, and this is something that I tell every candidate out there, whether they're 18 or 21 years old or they're 50 years old, you are better off going unemployed for another 2 to 3 months than taking a job you don't want and then leaving after 2 to 3 months anyways. So yeah, that was what I would say really helped me with that first step in my career, because if I had taken that desktop manager position, I would be 6 months out, potentially, or 3 months out of just wasted time, and or maybe I probably would have had some good experiences. But again, me then wanting to get into recruitment, I'd be no better off than when I was a uni grad, you know? So that's why it's very, very important when you have that first opportunity, just take a step back, just think, is this going to help me get to my end goal? And if it doesn't, stop, breathe, appreciate the situation, and move forward and wait for that better role that's better aligned to what you're after. Okay? I hope you guys got some value from this video. If you are interested in working with me on a one-to-one level, click the link below for a free consultation. Happy to have a chat. Hope you guys enjoyed. Take care. See you guys next time.